Hello. Well, now and then people give me a pile of old junk, and today is one of those days. Now, it's not that I particularly want this sort of thing, but it might be interesting to show on YouTube, and there may be a few interesting things in here, so let's have a look. So very briefly, we have a set of 3 DVD players, Sony, Panasonic and JVC. Well, that covers a lot of the major brands. I believe they're all players only. So the Sony proclaims that it's a Precision Drive 3 with plus and minus R and RW playback. So, of course, recordable DVDs came in both a minus R and plus rewritable. And also DVD RAM. Doesn't appear to support DVD RAM. The Panasonic one does. And from what I know about these machines, they will also play unfinalized discs, so they can be quite handy actually. Then the JVC, not sure what that'll play. It says DVD, Super Video CD and Video CD and regular CDs. So not sure that'll be quite so flexible, but it will certainly be able to play DVD minus RWs, I'm sure. And next item here is a rather horrible VHS recorder. Well, it is hi-fi stereo, but it's a low brand, so it's nothing special. And then on the top, a laptop. Actually, quite an interesting laptop. It's made by a manufacturer called IQon. They were made in, I think, Ireland. So it's quite an unusual model. Right, let's have a play with these. Should we start with the Sony at the bottom here? We'll just stick a DVD in and see if it plays. So I'll connect it to this old TV. I'll connect the DVD player to isolated mains because I'm a bit of a wimp like that. I don't like raw mains. I'm not as brave as Big Clive. I'll plug it in, I think, on the SCART connection, which should give RGB connection through here. Have a look at the back here. What do we have? Composite video. Well, you wouldn't use that, would you? And audio out, either stereo or coaxial. I'm assuming this does RGB. Yes, it does. It says RGB. Some cheap DVD players only play composite out on the SCART, which is just horrible. Okay, let's power it up. I did power it up, didn't I? Nothing? Oh yeah, it says welcome. It did say welcome. No disc. Alright then. Let's see if we can eject and put a disc in. It takes the small size discs as well, so you can probably put camcorder DVDs in here. Oh, playback of various discs. CD, R and RW, MP3, Super Video CD, Kodak Picture CD, DVDs plus and minus RW. Minus RW, VR and video mode. So I'll bet it probably also plays unfinalized discs. So it's kind of designed for that era when people used to use DVD camcorders. So model number on this one, NVP-NS355. It's quite mechanically noisy. But yeah, that works. Let's take a look inside. There's a fair bit in here, more than I expected to see. So, power supply looks pretty decent quality and on its own PCB. This drive looks like it may be a modified computer type drive. Then we have a front panel board there, including infrared receiver and the push buttons. Main digital and analog electronics are there, and we also have RGB out. And there may be some circuitry on this board. I think there's some behind there you can feel. Pretty good quality actually, that's not bad. Approximate year of manufacture? 2004 I would say. Next on the list is a Panasonic DVD S35. This one's got a figure-of-8 power connector rather than captive power. It's got YUV output as well as the SCART and composite. We wouldn't use that. An optical out rather than the digital audio out connector on that one. Okay, let's get a power cable and plug it in. Switch it on. What do we get? Just red light. Switch that on. It also says welcome. Welcome to DVD world. No disc. A and D. I don't know why that's there. Oh. It just keeps saying close. And cycling around. It's as though it's continuously rebooting. That's unusual. Can I switch it off? By, it says. Off. Let's have a look inside. So, big power supply, main board there has all been integrated into one on this one with the SCART socket. An awful lot of space over here. Kind of looks like there's supposed to be something else there. It's hard to say if there's no kind of mounting holes, so maybe not. Maybe it's just there for show, that space. There are some odd square holes in the bottom here. Could they have been for some other option? And why is it continuously rebooting? Probably a fault in the power supply. Let's have a quick look at those capacitors. Any of those look grim? None of the capacitors look visibly at fault on the power supply. Though you can't always tell. There's a front panel on this as well, of course, for the display and all the buttons. Are we going to be able to get the disc out of this? And how does the drive connect to the rest of the machine? Let's have a closer look. I honestly don't know. What's this? That's just laser warnings. I'm beginning to think that the drive actually connects straight down onto this main board. So it's a kind of sort of a cost-reduced sort of build, isn't it? Can we get the disc out? I think we can. I think we can power it up and just press eject. Yes, it'll come out, it just won't play. It's not even spinning up. Oh, it almost went though. Let's try that again. Oh, I got it running up. Play. Aha. How odd it wouldn't do that earlier. Power cycle it. And then try play. Yes. Maybe just a lack of use causing motor to not spin properly. May have been a laser fault actually. Approximate year of manufacture 2003, I think. So one last DVD player. This one's the JVC. Captive power cable. So look at the rear sockets. So SCART presumably includes RGB. I do hope so. Yes, it will have, because this has got component out and the coaxial digital audio and analog audio out. It's a tiny little thing. You may have seen my videos on JVC DVD recorders, and I suspect it's quite similar in some ways. Right, let's power this one up. What do we get? Nothing so far. Is there an on button? Read, it says. No disc. Checked. Button layout is a little bit random. It was quite quick to start, and that's working fine. Yeah, that's not bad. Again, I don't have the remote for this, but I would be surprised if it didn't work with the remote control signals from the JVC DVD recorders. I might even have one. Let me try it. Let's see if DVD recorder remote works it. Is the remote working? Test it with this thing. Yep, that's working. So no, it is ignoring that. No, it seems to completely ignore that. So, different code set. Okay. That may not be a mistake. That might be that they think you could have a player and a recorder in the same location, so they gave them different code sets. Shall we take a look inside this thing? So what do we have? Interconnect panel. Display panel, that one is. That's, what kind of display is that? I think it's a VFD. The ones in the DVD recorders, they fail something terrible. They're Futaba VFDs, and they go very dim. Is that all power supply on the bottom? No, they've got the power supply and some of the signals on one board. Generally, I think that would be considered to be a bad idea. And then digital processing there, lead-free it says. I mean, things have been lead-free for quite a long time. What year do we think this one is? I can't find a date code anywhere that seems to make any sense. So it's model XVN322S from JVC. There is some electronics buried under there, and then a flexi cable going to the digital board here. The reason I think it's not all built onto one board, or nearly all of it built onto one board, is this is a double-sided PCB, which is necessary for the components that are on there, whereas the main board down there is single-sided, so it's to keep costs down. And the buttons feel a bit clunky, noisy, and the way they operate is, if you can see, they've got like little plastic levers here that push down onto the buttons that are on the bottom board, so that's why they don't feel that nice. Don't know why they've done that, because I've got a circuit board on the front anyway, probably for LEDs, although I can't quite see what for. I'm finding that very curious. They seem to have a circuit board mounted along the top here that doesn't do anything. Why would they do that? You know, I'm going to have to look at that, because that's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's a circuit board to nowhere. What's that about? That was quite hard to remove. So there are plastic levers that push down on these buttons, but there's a board in here. Why? They have genuinely used a printed circuit board with nothing on it. And it's even got a couple of solder pads. And it does nothing. So I'm guessing, come on, let's try and work out why they've done this. Why have they made a circuit board with nothing on it? And I'm guessing they've used it for mechanical stiffness. And it kind of came free when they built the whole circuit board. What they'd do is this would all be one board, and they'd break it up. And they had some spare PCB material left over. So this was manufactured at the same time as all these. And they just used this as mechanical stiffness for the back of that. What they could have done, of course, is mounted these switches on here instead of these horrible big plastic things, but then they'd have had to have a flexi cable to connect the two, and that would have cost money. So they did it this way, but I have never before seen a circuit board that does nothing. So there we are. I just had to see that. That's the weirdest bit of PCB in the world, isn't it? And someone's handwritten on it. I mean, why handwrite on a piece of plastic? Maybe that was handwritten for the whole board, the whole assembly. And why has it got a couple of lands that don't go anywhere? You could probably see where those tracks go, because there's tracks on there. They probably go off to one of the other boards and is used during manufacturing, possibly during testing. And when it's snapped off, it isolates a connection. Well, JVC, you've excelled yourself in weirdness there. There's a display. Is that a VFD? I think it is. Slightly odd one. Notice they've got locations here for screws that they never bothered to fit. I guess they figured that it's probably a case that for some markets maybe regulations require that every part is screwed together, and for others the clips are enough. Next in our set is this Daewoo VHS machine. SCART connectors labelled Euro AV, and there are no audio outputs. Usually you get phono output sockets for connecting to your hi-fi, but no, not in this case. And usually, looking through the vents at the back, I can see right the way through to the heads. So model number ST862P. For all its failings, at least it's hi-fi. Commercial skip and NTSC playback on PAL TV, which is normal. It says 6-head Nikam A2 hi-fi stereo. What's A2 when it's at home? Auto set. No, let's not do auto set. I don't have a remote, of course. No tape. Let's try one. Oh, error. Display seems very dim. RF54. I don't care about the RF channel. What is it doing? Error. Try fast forward. Dies with error. I wonder if it'll even give me the tape back. Press eject. Or stop eject. If you don't give me the tape back, I'll be a little bit annoyed. Oh well, it managed to do that. Oh dear. Right, let's take it apart and fish my tape out. Only 2 screws hold the entire cabinet on. My tape is entangled in some guides. That's not done it much good. So, what do we have? Rear idlers there. That looks to be, what I can see, intact. Back tension arm. Guides all look sensible. There's the loading motor. Of course, it's typical of this sort of design. You can't take the deck out and work on it because it needs to be plugged into the main board. So that makes servicing hard. Interesting, looking at the board, they have locations here for opto sensors for the auto stop, because of course VHS uses a terrible optical auto stop system, and they have one there as well, but no actual sensors. So where are they? You know, I'm beginning to think this hasn't got any opto sensors. How does that work then? And there's the location that the infrared source would be. It doesn't have any. I've never seen a VHS deck without that. Of course, in the olden days, you used to light your light bulbs and things, and they were even more unreliable. Beta had a much superior auto stop system, consisting of metal tape at the end of the cassette, which was detected by a magnetic flux sensor, massively superior to this awful optical system used on VHS and the likes. Shall we put the tape in again, poor old tape, sorry, and see what it does again. That looks okay. What I've seen in the past in some decks is that it fails to lace properly and then you're in trouble. But no, that looks okay. Let's try fast forward. I don't know where the stop button was. A stop, but there it is. So let's try fast forward. That seems to be working. And rewind. Did it just leave some tape loop? Yes, rewind wasn't successful. It was doing it this time. Okay, well let's just try play. Yeah. And it said on the on-screen display, you may not have seen it from my other stuff here, it said hi-fi. Oh yeah, hi-fi left and right. Try forward search. Seems to be slow forward search. If I press it again, does it get faster? Yes. Back to play. Reverse picture search. Slow and now fast. Oh, what's it doing now? Sure, I said play. It's gone into alarm mode again, I think. So it has some sort of intermittent problems. Well, it's clearly not worth repairing. I'll eject the tape. Let's see if it manages to eject it okay. Yes, that was a clean eject that time. Well, let's just marvel in this thing. I'll power it down while we try to work out how does the auto stop work. Does it just get to the end of the tape and say, oh, I'm not moving anymore, therefore I've hit the end of the tape? Well, do you know what? It's working well enough that we should be able to rewind or maybe fast forward to the end of the tape and get a feel for how the auto stop works. It's behaving a bit like a machine that has got too much light on it. And you get this sort of behaviour from VHS machines that have got light on both sensors. But clearly that's not the cause because it hasn't got any sensors. Let's cover it up a little bit. Did it work better when it was tilting forward like that? No, you see it left a load of slack then, didn't it? Do you think it might be having trouble with the mode switch? Where would the mode switch be? Probably underneath the deck somewhere, or on the main PCB. Shall we have a look? Interesting, it says here on the serial number for the carriage, number 221. It's a very low serial number. The deck is held down by no less than 6 screws. It's as though actually the machine is relying on the deck for support rather than the other way around. Right, so when I disconnected the head drum there were no other connections to take off. Everything else goes down through these multi-way connections at the bottom. It's a very simple deck design, isn't it? And there's the mode switch with an alignment marker on it. Pop the top off. So you've got a set of sweeping contacts which go down onto there. Right, this could be an opportunity for deoxit. This is something that's quite hard to get in the UK. I had to order it in. So I bought this stuff in for just this sort of purpose. So the contacts here, the pattern of the contacts, tells the machine's electronics where the deck is. Whether it's in play or rewind or fast forward or eject, you can detect it all by this position of this switch. Reassemble with the arrow pointing in the same place as it was at the start. And refit the deck on the top. Let's see if that's helped at all. Can I fast forward? Seems good. Let's try stop. Do we get slack on the left like we did last time? That wasn't good, was it? Maybe there is actually a mechanical fault with this thing. Well, whatever was wrong with it, it wasn't the mode switch, was it? Okay, I've got it working well enough that we can fast forward to the end of the tape. And I want to see how it does an auto stop when you consider that it doesn't have any opto sensors. It's fairly fast. Right, it's got very slow towards the end. So it's just assumed that it's reached the end of the tape. And it clearly hasn't. What happens if we fast forward? Play. Right, it's coming to the end of the tape now. It should have detected the end. It's running the lead across the tape, the head. Not good. It stalls. Rewinds a bit. It's effectively in reverse picture search now because it's laced. So that's it. It just stalls the tape and detects that it's reached the end. And notice it's doing a fully laced rewind like Sony beta machines do. Let's see what happens to get to the other end. Go dead slow. Getting towards the leader tape. What will it do? Did it detect that? Let's hit rewind again. Oh, it just jams. And then said, oh, I've hit the beginning then. And then steps forward a bit. Well, it's the first time I've ever seen a VHS machine with no optical tape sensors. Let's move on. Next we have this laptop, branded IQon. I did a little bit of research on this, And it's quite an unusual brand. They were made in Ireland. So it's a model 8050. Well, says made in Ireland, but there's a lot of Chinese writing on it, so it wasn't really, was it? And multimedia by Philips, so I guess the DVD CD writer is a Philips product. Looks like we've got good access to most of the components underneath, which could be handy. So, manufactured by IQon Technologies, Dundalk, Ireland. The battery's made in China. I think the whole thing's made in China. Now, I have already powered this up and deleted some of the original owner's information from it. So we can switch it on and have a look. I've also plugged in a mouse, because I'm not very good at touchpads. What does it say? Dated 2004. I didn't get to read any of the rest of that. CPU speed 1600. Centrino Mobile Technology. So it's going to be a pretty, or Pentium M, it's going to be a pretty low performance machine. Fans running. Stereo speakers, but the right one seemed a bit louder than the left. Let's have a look at the specifications. I haven't used Windows XP for a long time. I don't remember much how to use it. Processor 1.6 gigahertz, 590 megahertz. Not sure what that's about. 480 megabytes of RAM. Oh my goodness. IQon Technologies offer technical support to all their customers. Well, they're long gone, I'm afraid. Oh, look, Tesco customers. Yes, so I had a feeling that they did sell these things via Tesco, so that's how they have some Tesco support information there. Connect to the wireless network. Well, we could try. Enter your WEP or WPA key. Connecting to the network. That's taking a long time. That's not working, is it? Maybe it can't cope with WPA2. Let's plug a network cable in instead. It seems to work, but it's desperately slow, so I'm wondering if this might be a good candidate for a Linux installation. Though, does even Linux, most versions of that may require a bit more grunt than this thing has. Certainly some more memory. Why is it not achieving anything? Out of date browser, maybe? Oh, did you see that? Was that the IRQ not equal type error that implies a hardware failure? Oh dear. IRQ not less or equal. I think that usually means you have a hardware failure or driver problem. Well, don't think there's going to be a driver problem. So we need to make sure the hardware is in good order before we consider putting Linux on this. The fan's running and not excessively, and it's blowing out warm air, so I don't believe it's overheated. You know, if I heard the fan spinning a lot and no warm air coming out, then I'd blame overheating for that. Memory diagnostics, I think we want to try. Okay, well, I want to test the hardware because I want to know if it's going to be possible to put Linux on this. So let's just do a memory test. There we go. Boot sequence. Floppy disk first. That would be hard. CD-ROM first. Then hard disk. No option to boot from USB. Aha. It seems to be working. Doing a memory test. Well, it doesn't seem to have a memory problem. So whatever's wrong with it, it's more serious than just some bad memory. Well, this thing's been continuously rebooting, so it's clearly never going to work. So what's wrong with it? Well, it's hard to know, isn't it? Let's have a look at the components we can get to underneath. The battery is completely exhausted, so if I unplug the battery, unplug the power, then it goes off in an instant. So that's not going to work. What can we see? There's 4 panels to remove on here. So in this one we have an Intel network card. And the Wi-Fi antennas for that, main and auxiliary. So that would be replaceable if you really wanted to. This is compact flash card reader. Next along, there we are, we have the RAM. So I think there's 500 meg in this, so there's 2 smaller sticks in there. So you could put more memory in there, but I don't believe memory is the cause of this thing rebooting. So there's the hard disk. So it's a old IDE interface. Western Digital, 60 gigabytes. Date 27th of May 2005. I believe there are solutions for fitting a SSD into an IDE machine. So if this computer was any good, you could speed it up considerably. There's the CPU. If that fan was full of dust, I would certainly blow it out and say, oh, that might have been the cause for overheating, but it's not full of dust. I can see right through the veins to the outside, so that's not the cause. Besides which, sometimes it crashes and reboots when it's not even particularly warm. Interestingly though, the CPU appears to be in a socket, so in theory you could upgrade the CPU a little bit, which is quite unusual I think for a laptop. I don't think I've ever seen that in a laptop before. What's big and shiny there? Is that kind of a subwoofer, do you think? Maybe that's why the impression is that the sound comes out the right channel more than the left, because the bass comes out of that, maybe. And it has a removable battery. I dare say that's something you could change if you can still get them. It might be common to something else. For example, I have a laptop which is branded Staples, but actually the batteries are common to NEC, so this might be available from some other manufacturer. So what do you think? Is there any chance of recovering this thing, maybe for use with a different operating system? I don't think so. I think it's got a fault that's not going to be fixable, but you tell me if you know how we could debug this a bit better. Well, there you go. Hope you've enjoyed rummaging through all this old junk. Some of it's not as useful as others, but even so, it's been interesting, I think, to have a look at some of the technology from around about 15 years ago. Please remember to like, share, and especially subscribe. I'll do a lot more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now.